Turned on my computer and look who's in my screen. Julien, how are you? Good morning, good evening. How's Paris? How's life?
Good morning, Max. That's actually where I hide all day. I'm just waiting on your screen, and glad to be here again. I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. You can see I've got the couch behind me here, and I've got one from the mailbag that definitely has some pain. So I think I'll share a little bit of pain here.
Okay.
I'm going to keep this one anonymous, and I think you can, as the story unfolds, you'll see why. I'm not going to name the company, although probably we'll end up using the name because it's really, I can think of two companies in the world this might be. It'll become pretty obvious who it is. But
Okay.
this is from a friend of mine who works for a large company. And one of the things this company does is they have amusement parks that they run. And one of the perks of working for this company is that you can get discounted tickets to the amusement parks. So he had friends coming in from out of town, and he asked that I not use his name because he's kind of ratting out his own company here on this story. Spoiler alert, this is not a happy story. But he had family coming from out of town and they wanted to go to the amusement park. So, and this was a whole lot of family, and they were going to do, I think it was 2 days. And so they ended up buying a whole lot of tickets. And there was a online way to do it, but the price on the online thing looked weird. So they ended up calling and they got somebody, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, that's the wrong price." And they went through and they got the price, they got the tickets, and it was, many dollars worth of tickets and a whole lot of tickets. And then a couple days later, they checked the credit card, and the price they were charged was the inflated wrong price.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it was a lot. It wasn't any like $50 difference or something. This was a lot of money, and a whole lot of tickets to an amusement park. So they called to try to get a refund, and the way the billing system's set up, there's no option to get a refund. So they have to cancel the tickets and reorder, but canceling isn't something, we had one recently where we talked about the power of first contact resolution. First contact resolution was no option for canceling. There was a big, long process behind the scenes that had to go on before it could be done. So, you'll see your cancellation. It'll take a week, but we'll get the cancellation to you. Week goes by, nothing. 2 weeks go by, nothing. So now they're calling, oh yeah, that didn't work. We're going to try doing this another way. Give us another week. Week goes by, nothing. Another week goes by. Actually, at this point, I don't think they did another week. They just called. And finally came down to, sorry, we can't cancel. And meanwhile, based on the promise to cancel, they bought the second batch of tickets. So now basically this person has, I don't know how many, there are probably 20 tickets to an amusement park, for family and everybody else for 2 days that they overpaid for, that they're not going to get a discount back on. And they're now just going to go to that, and the kind of horrible thing about this is, in a lot of ways, the amusement park wins because they're going to go over and over, and they're going to buy overpriced food, and they're going to do all this stuff there. So they just were stuck with thousands of dollars of amusement park tickets that they weren't planning to use, they didn't need, and they're going to make the best out of it and use it and go to the park, etc. But boy, what a painful story.
At least it's not specific date tickets, right? Those are open tickets. You can use them.
Correct. I think they have at least a year to use them. So yeah, but they're going to know this amusement park inside out and upside down by the time it's all done.
Yeah, well, and I'm guessing you probably don't have every day of the week 20 people of your family around, so it's like a one time a year kind of thing. So
right, and yeah, so what they're going to do is they're going to go with their kids multiple times and just burn through the tickets that way. Yeah, exactly. It's like, how many times am I going to go to this darn place?
I mean, if you were planning on buying a yearly plan to enjoy the park as often as possible, beautiful, great.
Right.
But the whole thing is painful. Did you get to the bottom of it on why things went south? Was it a mistake on the customer side? Was it a mistake on the billing side? Was it a mistake on the company side?
I think what I remember, I've got the note here, and it doesn't go into that detail, but I've also talked to him about it. What I remember was they bought single-day tickets. They were told that was their only option. So they bought single-day tickets, and it turned out the publicly available 2-day tickets were cheaper than the special employee discount single-day tickets. So they ended up, I think ultimately the company could say, no, you bought this discounted thing the way we have it. But they weren't informed that, you could do 2-day tickets, it would be a better price. So it was kind of in a muddy middle, I would say, a little bit.
There are many things that annoy me with your story. The first thing is, I totally understand. You have terms and conditions, especially when you buy with a rebate, when you buy a special offer, this kind of stuff. You always have terms and conditions apply. And let's face it, no one ever reads the terms and conditions, unless you're a lawyer of some sort, unless you're passionate in life. Other than that, you don't. So
yeah, and do you really want to hang out with a person who does read the terms and conditions?
You don't want to go to an amusement park with that person, for sure.
Yeah.
But unless in this specific case, you probably do want. But so there are terms and conditions. Fine. Now, by the time I call you the first time, just be very clear about it. That's not going to work because our terms and conditions clearly state blah, blah, blah. Don't make me call 15 times. Don't make me buy a new set of tickets. That's when things go wrong. The first thing that went wrong was not being clear on the first call. And it's totally acceptable to say, no, we can't refund. Look what you've accepted. And it's not a good thing to do, but it's a much better thing than what actually happened.
Than teasing you and drawing you out. And, yeah,
exactly. The second thing I hate about this, and a few companies do that, it usually happens with complex products or services, having many options and all of that. You should always try to, by default, offer the cheapest package to your customer that fits their needs. Simple example here. I need 2 days. Is it cheaper to buy 2 one-day tickets, or is it cheaper to buy 1 2-day tickets? If there is a price difference, don't let your customers buy 2 one-day tickets when a 1 2-day tickets is cheaper. That should be your role as a company to raise your hand and say, hold on. With what you're buying, we actually have a cheaper offer. Are you sure you want to buy that? You can force your customers to buy whatever they want, but don't lure them into buying something more expensive than what they need. And the third thing...
That's such a good point.
Yeah, and that happens quite often, quite frankly, but always with complex products. When it's simple, you just buy it and it's not. And the third thing here is about the lack of taking responsibility, the lack of proactivity, the lack of follow-up, and the fact to drag things on. Meaning, It should be fixed in a week. No one calls back in a week. He has to wait for another week. Call back in, probably with a freaking long waiting line again and another crazy IVR to go through. Talk to an agent that tells him, we're going to try again. Wait for another week. Again, no one calls back. No one follows up. There is no notification, no information. There is a complete lack of ownership. Yeah, that's the word I was searching for. Ownership. No one owns the responsibility on anything here. That's incredibly frustrating as well.
Yeah, and it's so funny. We recently had this one where we talked about empowerment and an agent saying, I'm going to fix this. This is what I'm going to do for you. And first contact resolution happened as part of that. This is the absolute dead opposite of that. This is, we have, it wasn't even, the agent didn't even know the procedure. The agent didn't even know the rules. The rules were so arcane and confusing that it couldn't be figured out, that the agent needed a week to figure it out. And, who knows if it's on the agent or whoever would be responsible for following up, not following up, or even after a week, they couldn't. I can't imagine after a week they can't sort that out. It sounds like it's both. The rules are arcane, and whoever should have been empowered to fix this either wasn't empowered or just didn't want to bother.
And they could have, I understand systems are not always flexible. Software are not always flexible. Rules are definitely not always flexible, and there's back to the terms and conditions. Now, if you cannot cancel the first set of tickets, at the very least, you could have offered, you've already used that second set, it was cheaper, I'm going to refund the second set of tickets, I'm going to nullify the first set, you're going to pay the high price, but at least you get half of your money back.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
That's more of a scam than anything else. Now, you won't mention the actual park, which I understand makes sense in that story. However, I've watched documentaries about one of Zeus parks, the one with a big black mouse, and because we happen to have one in Paris, and I don't know if all the parks for that brand or for the other brands use a similar concept, but I was amazed watching that documentary how careful they are about every tiny detail. How the park needs to be perfectly clean, how a single paper on the floor is actually an issue and you need someone to jump in right away to clean it up, how the service needs to be perfect, how everything needs to be incredibly perfect. And that's the experience you got in the park, which fair, it's not just about the amusement. That's about, the stories and the environment and the wonderful world you live in for just a day or two, depending on the ticket you purchase. Or the 4 tickets you purchased. But you have that perfect world, but prior to that, you end up with a terrible experience. It's like going to a massage salon, but getting the first step to make you incredibly angry so that you actually deserve the massage because you need it by the time you finally get it. That kind of defeats the whole purpose here.
The other element of this that I don't have any way to know is this was an employee discount. This was a special employee line. Is this a case where we treat our employees different than our customers? I've seen many, many examples of that through the years. So that it may be that if you or I were to do this and we'd call whatever the normal 800 number or go to the normal website, but trying to get the employee discount may be at the heart of why this went so south. Inexcusable, though. It's an observation of something I've seen in the world that, to me, that gives no excuse.
You're right. I've seen that as well. So it could be that. If it is, though, that's really sad because your employees are your best possible ambassadors, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If your service or your product is good, and it might be more difficult when you work in the B2B industry, where you may be selling products you don't actually need yourself or use yourself. I don't know if you work for the automotive industry and you sell these big robots and machines to factories. Chances are you don't need one of them at home, so you probably don't know that much about your own products. You have not really experienced it yourself. But when it's an amusement park, when it's a toy, when it's a video game, when it's a book, when it's something that everyone would use, getting your employees excited about it is the best way to make sure they talk about it to everyone. They get discounts, they bring people in, they spread the word, and you just grow your brand kind of organically with that. Now, if you give your employees a terrible experience, probably better not give them any discount at all than actually do it the wrong way.
Right. Just say, you know what, we don't do discounts, but you're going to have this great customer experience at least. Yeah, fair point. I think that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, and it is with amusement parks. It's so much about the brand, and how much are you saving to sully the brand with these people who are? You're right. There's who's a better ambassador for the company than the employees should be, at least.
And there is the price element as well. You have not named the actual price, but you've mentioned a few $1,000s. I'm actually amazed by the price you pay for those tickets, especially in the US. I've been to one park, I believe, in the US. I've done this a few times in France. And then you have the premium parks if you go around Paris or Orlando, where you have that insane price you pay for a single day of activities, while in France, if you go to the secondary or third tier cities, it's a tenth of the price for ultimately similar kind of amusement anyway. Considering how much you pay and considering how many customers you bring in, you probably deserve a little bit more respect than what your friend or secret Santa here has actually experienced.
Yeah, I agree. I think this definitely came from the Grinch, not from Santa.
Well, a sad story. There are a couple of learnings we could extract from that, though.
I think there's a couple. One is don't treat your employees as second-class citizens. The fact that you're doing something for them to give them a discount doesn't mean they owe you anything and they deserve a rotten experience as part of that. Because clearly this was a rotten experience.
And it's deserving your brand as much as it's hurting your employees. It's definitely bad.
Exactly. And then I think I would go back to empowerment. Maybe it's a combination of empowerment and process. Make it so an agent can do something when something like this happens. And, it's not like this was somebody saying, I don't want to go anymore. Give me a full refund on these tickets. It was saying, hey, I didn't get offered the best price here. Give me I want the better deal. And, what's that cost you? A few, not nothing, but in the grand scheme of things, less than nothing. And making it so that it takes an incredibly long time to even figure out if you can do it. Go fix that process. That's just unacceptable. Period. End of discussion.
Agreed. Especially that something else I'm thinking about here. It's very difficult to get customer feedback. We talked last week, I believe, about customer surveys, and it's very hard to get people to fill a survey. And if they do, it's usually because they had either an amazing or terrible experience, hardly ever anything in between. But getting honest feedback from your employees is something that's much easier. So now you get that chance of getting your employees to experience what your customers experience at a discounted rate and give you some honest feedback about what was right, what was wrong. You can actually use your own employees as mystery shoppers. It doesn't cost you anything or close to nothing.
Great idea.
And you get that fantastic feedback that you can leverage to actually improve your offering. And you're missing out on this. So, definitely.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, we're going to give you I don't know what the discount is, but whatever, we're going to give you X% discount. This kind of goes back to your one where they wanted you to have skin in the game, and your skin in the game was writing on a piece of paper. I forget exactly what you wrote, but we're going to give you a discount. Our ask is you provide us feedback on your experience. Totally fair, totally, and you can't buy discounted tickets again until you do that survey. A great way to get feedback on the experience, and empowering to the employees. You're our secret shoppers. Help us know how we can improve. I love that idea.
Well, let's implement it next week. We fixed so many large companies in the past few weeks. I can't imagine us not fixing that one as well.
Clearly.
Thank you so much for your secret Grinch. Thank you for your time, Max. And I guess next week I'll have to check what's in the mailbag to share with you guys.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks. I on behalf of my friend, I feel much better.
I'm not sure he does. I think it's going to take another year before he does. But hey,
yeah.
Start somewhere. Therapy always takes
all of that.
Well, thank you very much, Max. Have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Julien. Take care.
Bye.